have gathered in large numbers in front of Governor Christie's office, whose remarks at the initial stage of this case also were seen as a kind of clear-cut verdict from such a top official against Dharun, which resulted into this kind of image of him being such an ugly guy in this matter, someone filled with hatred for gays and all the facts which were laid down in front of the court were not seen in the total perspective in a way which would show the face of the real Dharun Ravi. Community, of course, believes that some amount of penalty is due for Dharun, but the way he has been made sort of a scapegoat as anti-gay sentiment should be curbed, that need to be removed. And with all these sentiments, members of Indian community from the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania have gathered here. Today is 14th May. This is New Jersey, Trenton, in front of Governor Christie's office. Bala, how effective do you think this demonstration might be, and what is the basic intent with which community members have gathered here?
I think the intent is just to bring out the fact that it was an 18-year-old who goes into college and spends a couple of weeks and just does some simple mistake. You know, it was a mistake. And we are trying to say the punishment that we are hearing about is too harsh for a simple prank that a typical 18-year-old does. So as a community, what we are trying to do is we are trying to bring out the fact that people came to conclusion even before knowing all the facts, and those facts were not really out at the time that people like Obama and Ellen came out. And when the case was over, we all realized that the facts did not really speak to what the media hype was about, and the powerful political groups were trying to promote and use Dharun Ravi as a scapegoat to push their cause. And Tyler losing his life is a tragedy, and I don't think we need to have another tragedy by putting a kid who has already suffered 2 years in prison for more years and making him lose his life. So that's what we as a community we are trying to bring out. And to answer your first question, how effective it will be, we are trying to voice an opinion as a community, and we are trying to do that as best as we could. And it's up to the authorities and the judge to look at us and say, hey, is there a reason for him to reconsider the prison term that he is actually right now considering?
I have a son who is a 12th grader who is going into college, and I have another high schooler. And I can see Dharun was a teen when he made this silly pranks, silly mistakes. Of course, they were mistakes. What he made was mistake, but not hate crime. So I can see how kids brought up in our community can unknowingly get into trouble. And if we don't raise our voice, our opinion, voice our concern for justice, and in future this may be another incident. So we want to prevent it right now by supporting the freedom for Dharun Ravi.
But what he did is something that's been happening in many colleges and campuses all across the United States, even in India and many other countries. And this is very typical of a college prank. And this whole case has gone out of hand. And to convict him for all kinds of counts, it does not seem to be a true justice.
We're standing in front of Governor Christie's office here, and the banner that all of you carry says, "Don't make Dharun Ravi our anti-gay scapegoat." Jim McGreevey, former governor of New Jersey. This was his statement?
Yes, that was a statement in the Star Ledger.
And do you think he is being made a scapegoat?
He is being made scapegoat. We are very much strongly feeling that, and we want a justice. We don't want vengeance. and we want the truth to come out. There is no link proved that Dharun is responsible for the suicide of Tyler. We are very sorry for the parents for their terrible loss. We pray to God for Tyler that his soul should rest in peace, but we want justice.
Right, you know, at the core of this case, right, the core of the case, you're talking about what law was applied. Is this a case of a hate crime? Is a question we all are asking ourselves, and the answer is very, very clear. Here is a young kid who did not know what he was doing, right? Kids who had access to technology, and he was playing with technology. He had no idea what he was doing, right? He was not even thinking gay, or he was not even thinking anything of that nature. And when you have a situation like this, why do you apply a muddled law on a case like this? So that's the question. And the term muddled law is something which I'm not using it. It's the learned judge who used that law. So when a judge himself believes that the law which was used was muddled, why even apply? Why make this kid a scapegoat in a situation like this? Treat a kid like a kid. That's the object of the whole thing. So we are here to create awareness. We are here to create awareness to the folks here who run the government, so that they get a feel for what the reality of the situation is. And that's the core of what we are trying to do today with this forum.
If you're looking at a minor when this whole incident happened, then accordingly there are completely different set of rules that needed to be applied, and not something which was anti-gay and hate and all those. So those charges have to be dropped, and then it has to be taken up on a fresh note.
So to me, the hate crime law as passed by the New Jersey legislature is an unjust law. So I had to fight it. So that was the reason.
Thank you, sir.
Escalated into 15 charges. This is a turning point and a wake-up call, not only in the Indian and Indian American community, but for gay and lesbian people here in New Jersey, which is an episode that suddenly is relatively minor, has a prosecutor throwing the book at a young man with a second indictment of 15 charges. And all these people who are here today, I can't speak for them, they can speak for themselves, but no prison is needed here. And Bruce Kaplan, the Middlesex County prosecutor, is wrong. He overcharged this case, and let's hope that Judge Glenn Berman next Monday recognizes that this is out of control, that sometimes America's criminal justice system is its most efficient railroad. There's no prison needed.
I want to ask through a media, where was this prosecutor? Where was this previous prosecutor for 22 years? So many Indian American was and minorities was bodily injured, buildings burned, property damage. You did not find a one person to prosecute. Now the prosecutor making a resume to be a politician. This is what he is doing. To get a scapegoat, a perfect score, good boy. We all made a mistake when we growing up, but for that mistake, punishment must fit right way. We have to be judging on a cases. For a 22 years, not a one person prosecuted for all the crime committed with the people with the hate.
Media has played a very important role in the past, but on the negative side of this whole story. And I think from our community side, we need a support from the media to get to the bottom of this case and get a justice to Dharun. I think the way media has projected is not, right in the past. But now I think is the time, it's a high time, Justice!
We want justice! We want justice! We want justice! We want justice!
I just like to thank everyone who are here to support Dharun and bring justice for Dharun. I am really thankful everybody. And for the media, they were there on the trial. throughout everything. They were sitting there, watched the whole thing, and they understood everything, and they know he didn't get fair trial. And I'm just asking them now, right now, why don't you guys go out there and then write the real thing? I'm just begging you guys. You know what was going in the courtroom. You were quiet there. Why don't you wake up now and then bring some justice for Dharun and for all the future generation? It's not going to stop only with Dharun. I know that, and you all know that. So please, please wake up and then write something and then do something and bring some justice for Dharun.
Set Dharun free! 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 Set Dharun free!
We are requesting Honorable Judge on 21st to please grant Dharun Ravi bail pending appeal.
There were hundreds of members of the community in support of Dharun, and we also got to hear from Dharun's mother. And here is one long-time gay activist sharing his views. Let's listen.
Saying, you know, this is a horrible, horrible thing that happened. And I said, well, let's wait and see what the facts are. And one of the early things that happened was a candlelight vigil on the Rutgers campus. I went over, I live in Manhattan, and I went over to the Rutgers campus and I brought a sign with me, "Justice, not vengeance." Back then, I got a lot of really quizzical looks, and some people were even mad that I had that sign because I was implying that vengeance was in the air. The reason why I brought that sign is that I've been around long enough to remember and be around very painful injuries, assaults, even killings in my community, where the prosecutors, the police, juries wouldn't take those terrible episodes seriously. So over the years, I put in my share of marching to get attention to terrible attacks. But through that work, I've also become conscious that there are moments when you can go too far. And I also want to say I'm conscious that there are many Indian and Indian American brothers and sisters here who know exactly what I'm talking about. Dotbuster attacks, gay bashings. There is something that runs through those kind of attacks, hate. Precisely what we do about them, though, sometimes is to take our outrage and go out on the street, and that outrage is very important. It's also important to think about what it's doing. In the aftermath of Tyler Clementi's suicide, I saw the outrage erupt. I saw initial media reports, and I saw quickly people say, you know, we've got to address bullying, we've got to address suicide prevention, we've got to think about what Rutgers was doing and how it was handling this crisis. We've got to think about the campus climate for LGBT students, a whole host of things, all very legitimate and very important. And there was some other kind of outrage, though, going on, which is an impulse, a natural impulse to get those who were believed to be responsible for this suicide.
We've been meeting with the legislators since morning, and almost all the people we met, they understand the issues. We just waiting for the first one to take a shot at this, and we have the amendment to the law ready to be submitted to them. And we are going to take this further, and we're going to make sure this law is, just contested, and some people are going to come forward and support us on this. And thank you, everybody, for coming here. Thank you very much.
First of all, I thank everybody on behalf of Dharun's parents for coming on a working day. We are looking for equality and justice. At no stage, Dharun was given equality and justice. Tyler's record medical records, school records, his relationship with his parents, his relationship with his friends was never made public.
To send a message to our honorable judge and a prosecutor, please reconsider. Please, for a smaller mistake and prank, punishment must fit. You should never send Dharun to India. 18 years of his life he spent in this great American country.
Yeah!
He will never go back.
Yeah!
If we have to go on a fasting, we'll go on a fasting. This is a beginning. This is not the end of it.
The slogan of "We want justice, justice not vengeance" was heard loud and clear in front of Governor Christie's office, and mother and father of Dharun Ravi also pleaded to the media as well as to the people to raise their voice in support. Dharun's mother said that she's begging media to write clearly, and she also said that they have seen what has happened in the court, and the voice is to bring out the facts. Sandeep, you were addressing here and you mentioned something about meeting and also something to do with change in the law. What's that?
We've been just going from one committee to the other and trying to reach out to the legislators so they can relook at the law, the bias intimidation law, which even the judge said is a muddled law. So it needs to be relooked at, and amendment will be proposed by the criminal defense attorneys, and we are hoping that legislators can actually take an action because it doesn't really apply properly the way Dharun was incriminated in this. Yeah.
Dharun was hit with 15 charges. Those 5 suspects had 5, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It's sad. It's sad. He's a kid. He's a juvenile. 3 weeks out of high school. He was a prankster in high school. He pulled a prank. He never meant to hurt anybody. And there is no proof of that. None. Zero. It's speculation. Let's stay united for other causes. Thank you.
Well, I've been a police officer for 40 years. I've been to India twice. I worked on 15 or 20 federal and state investigations.
And recently there are 2 cases which are parallel in terms of the way they are affecting Indian community. One is this Dharun Ravi's case, and recently Professor Sinha was brutally killed, murdered. That verdict and this case, how do you see the comparison between the 2?
Just it's my opinion that it's sad. It's sad that they have to compare to both cases. The situation with Dr. Sinha was simply that they were charged with 5 or 6 crimes, where Dharun was hit with 15, but they were never charged with a hate crime.
And why is that?
I don't know why that was. I mean, there was enough information. Obviously, they attacked a person prior to the incident with the family, and they beat Dr. Sinha to death, assaulted the wife and the son. I mean, is that a hate crime? I think it is. You know.
And what is it that acts as a criteria wherein the attorneys put the case in front of the judge or the juries, and they put one case as hate crime and not another as hate crime, though as a layman the one with Professor Sinha appears to be more like a hate crime?
Well, there's no question about it. To me, Dr. Sinha is certainly a hate crime. I feel as if the crime that was allegedly committed by Dharun Ravi it should have been handled by the Rutgers itself under the circumstances. There's no actual physical evidence that he did anything wrong. It's just a kid.
और मैं तो चाहूँगा कि आज पहली बार, जैसे मक्कर साहब ने कहा है कि पहली बार कम्युनिटी इकट्ठी हुई है, और ऐसे बच्चों के लिए कम से कम एक कॉज तो ऐसा होना चाहिए जिसमें सारी कम्युनिटी कम से कम बच्चों के लिए एक जगह इकट्ठी हो सके। और ये आज बड़ी खुशी की बात है कि पहले दिन इतने लोग आए हैं और 21 को भी और लोगों ने आना है। और जो भी हम चाहें, सिर्फ इसमें जो मैंने ऊपर से कहा कि ये जो सज़ा है सिर्फ धरुण रवि को नहीं मिल रही, ये उसकी फैमिली भी इससे स्ट्रगल कर रही है, क्योंकि अब देखो उसका जो छोटा भाई है वो स्कूल में जाता है तो उसके छोटे भाई से लोग कतराते हैं, यहाँ तो उसको रवि धरुण की बात लेके उसको तंग करते हैं। उसकी मदर को देखो कितना पाउंड, और रवि धरुण ने भी कहते हैं कि 20 पाउंड लॉस कर दिया है। तो मैं चाहूँगा कि नेक्स्ट टाइम जब भी अपन इकट्ठे हों तो नॉट ओनली न्यू जर्सी, हमें ट्राई स्टेट या पेंसिल्वेनिया, न्यू जर्सी, न्यूयॉर्क, कनेक्टिकट, मैं चाहूँगा कि ITV के माध्यम से आई लाइक टू इनवाइट एवरी पीपल, सब लोग आएँ। जब अगला नेक्स्ट स्टेप होगा सबको ईमेल मिल जाएगी, तो आप सब लोग आएँ, तो जिससे आने वाले समय में हमारे बच्चों का जो फ्यूचर है, स्कूल में जो उनका डर है उनके मन में बैठा वो क्लियर होगा, और इस केस का जो डेफिनेशन है एटलीस्ट क्लियर होगी कि हेट क्राइम क्या है, क्योंकि ये जो भी केस है ये हेट क्राइम का नहीं था, ये लड़के ने किया और इस बच्चे के अगेंस्ट कुछ नहीं था। जो ज्यूरी थी वो भी वैसी थी, जिनको खुद जज ने कहा है कि मुझे ये केस समझ में नहीं आया, हर बार पढ़ता हूँ ये लॉ डिफरेंट लगता है, तो ये जो ज्यूरी है इनको कहाँ से पता लगेगा। तो इस केस को फिर से फ्रेश तौर पे शुरू करना चाहिए और हमारे बच्चे को इंसाफ मिलना चाहिए। थैंक यू ITV, थैंक यू।
I am Colonel Tewatia and I come from North Brunswick. I have got 2 points to make in this case. Firstly, when you punish somebody, the intent of the crime has to be established. And to me, the intent of crime has not been established clearly, whether it's a hate crime or the invasion of privacy. We are still doubtful on that. Secondly, somebody has committed a suicide. Now, was this the reason for committing suicide? And what are the motive behind committing a suicide? That has not been established. I believe there was a suicide note the person has left, which has not been brought in as an evidence in the court. And I think that is a very, very important evidence which should have been brought in the trial before reaching any judgment for that matter. I have been, by nature of my job in India, I had been in the position of a judge, and I'm pretty sure anybody who is in a position of judge considers all the evidence and all the arguments which are put forward. Apart from what the jury has decided, your own judgment has to be very, very important, because jury here is taken from normal people, arm public se aati hai. Everybody does not have the same understanding of the law as the attorneys have or the judges have. Giving due consideration, I would say this particular case requires a reopening and I would say retrial for the intent of the crime and not what is being portrayed at this particular time.
दारुण रवि को न्याय मिलना चाहिए। न्याय की गुहार के साथ भारतीय समुदाय इकट्ठा हुआ और ये भी बातें सामने आई कि जिस तरह से इसे हेट क्राइम करार दे दिया गया है, उसके पीछे कानून को समझने में कहीं ना कहीं चूक हुई है, और ये चूक न केवल आम आदमी से बल्कि जज के द्वारा भी कुछ इस तरह का वक्तव्य दिया गया। और एक महत्वपूर्ण बात ये रही कि जो दारुण रवि का रूममेट था, उसने सुसाइड नोट जो लिखा था उसको किसी भी रूप में केस में अदालत के सामने पेश क्यों नहीं किया गया। बहुत सारे सवाल, बात न्याय की और न्याय की पुकार गवर्नर क्रिस्टी के इस भव्य दफ्तर की इमारत की सीढ़ियों से सम्मिलित रूप से भारतीय समुदाय ने उठाई है और उन्हें विश्वास है कि इसका प्रभाव निश्चित रूप से होगा और न्याय को ठीक तरह से लागू करने की दिशा में इस केस के इंटेंट पर फिर से ताज़ा तरीके से सुनवाई किए जाने की ज़रूरत को भी कई लोगों द्वारा उठाया गया। ITV के लिए रिपोर्ट के साथ मैं हूं अशोक व्यास।